And one boy came up and he said, please, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I said, what has happened? And he said, because, just this unexpected anger came up in satsang, and I just felt a lot of anger and hatred towards you. And I said, don't worry about it. Don't take ownership of it. It is something, it's a mechanism that happens actually because I pointed, that there are opposing forces working inside the human expression of consciousness. We are discovering, perhaps for a long time, you were not so clear that these forces were operating in quite the way that you are coming to see them now. And why do they come now? Because you have applied for freedom. You say, I wish to be free. You must already know what you want to be free from or free of. You have a sense. As soon as it begins to awaken within you that there is really a possibility, when you've heard about awakening or enlightenment, it may for some people seem like just a kind of spiritual fantasy, but you're having the sense that maybe it is possible. And to that extent, you're open towards whatever it takes to come fully into the truth of yourself. As soon as this happens, it seems like these forces are triggered, especially a force within us that seems to want to keep your attention fixed on temporary things, just on your bodily existence and your personal concerns and attachments and so on. You see? And it can go worse than that. It can just manifest as intense frustration and anger and bitterness, and you may be surprised by the force of them. At the same time, there's another force that is within you that is somehow a call towards evolving and to raising at different to higher altitudes of consciousness. And so it seems like some conflict is inside. And if and when you come to the place that I'm pointing first, that you begin to observe these forces rather than to go with the reflex to just identify with them, because the minute you identify with them, it's as though you are put in the position where you're taking responsibility for them. They feel like, and you speak like that. You say, I feel so ashamed, as though it is something that you have done. But you are just becoming aware that these things come, and sometimes for what reason, you don't know, you see? So rather than tell you, that's not very good, and you shouldn't, I don't say that. I just say, you are aware, and you're becoming increasingly aware of the forces that function within your system of consciousness. That some are good, some not good. The more we are identified personally with our body and conditioning and such things, the more susceptible you are to be influenced by the negative forces also. Because the nature of the ego is it tends to be a quite unstable and insecure state. Selfish also, and easily become fearful. And if you are in the position where, especially I was saying earlier, that when something is new to you, that you don't know, very rarely you will view it in a good way. There's more the tendency to be a bit suspicious or to put it down if you feel challenged by it. You can begin to observe these more than identify with them. There's a reflex in us that tend to identify with these energies. When they are negative, we feel down and angry and frustrated. When they're positive, we can sometimes become proud and also arrogant, But I want to avoid that traffic jam altogether, because I think we can waste a lot of time fighting with these energies and not getting very far. And I want to tell you why we don't get very far. Because we are missing something, which is that as long as we are identified as a person, these forces are more operative. They function for the person. This is why sometimes I will ask you, who is this voice speaking to? Like, you're not ready, you're not good enough, you're too young, you're born in the wrong place, all these things, And something is believing them and reacting with them. So what is it that's reacting with them and believing them and suffering them? We are inclined to say, it's me. It's me, it's happening to me. And it is happening when you come to see, it is just happening to your self-image, to who you believe yourself to be at the moment. But this is not the fact of who you are. Coming to satsang or following any authentic spiritual path is a step towards deconstructing many, many concepts that we have absorbed and begin to be exposed, the unreality, the untruth of them. And the more that we are identified with personally, the more we tend to believe these things. You see? They're not actually born out of experience, you see? If I were to say to you, for the rest of the day, speak only of the things that you know and you have experienced. Speak only from your experience. You see? You may find that you go out and if you have to mix with people, you either find you don't have much to say if you speak from your own experience. And after a little while, it will feel unbearable if you are limited to speak only from your experience. You will just won't be able to stand it. You will start to make things up. Because that's what we do. We are used to just, people say something, you believe it. You read something, you believe it. And so this leads to a kind of contamination and an overload of your system because it's not the best use of your mind and attention, you see? So I'm only pointing these things out, and now I'm going to say to you, when these things arise, as they do, I am calling your attention to say, start just observing them, but don't go with the tendency to want to get rid of them. That's a reaction, a very understandable reaction for something that you may find unpleasant. So if a reaction comes to kind of avoid them, you'll see from the place I'm asking you to look in yourself that you can simply just observe that and observe even an urge to avoid or to get rid of something. Just keep on observing, but with detachment. That's the key factor, no? That as you continue to just observe and don't get personal with things, you begin to see with a deeper level of understanding and clarity. And the more you are kind of attuned and in tune with what I'm asking, just observe for a bit. But even if something feels like it's very personal, don't combine yourself with it. Just be the observing. This is a very, very, very key step that will happen within you, that you start to recognize that these thoughts can come like an invitation to participate in some activity, and if you don't join up with them, if you don't log in to this thought functioning, you feel that they don't actually affect you. They just thin away if you stay out of combining yourself with them. So this simple act of observing, but observing with detachment, is one of the first great steps of transcendence. As you keep on observing, but without getting pulled into the scenarios that you are seeing, then I say, start to observe or to be aware of what it is that is observing. But don't give this to your mind. Don't ask for the mind's help or opinion. Just say, something is observing these things. Okay? Is it observing with interest? You can begin like that, Are there some things coming up where the pull to engage with them is stronger? You see? You will notice that. But still don't connect. Don't log into them if you can. And if you do that for a while, initially you might feel quickly tired because it feels like you're really trying to stay out of something. But I'd ask you to persist. You don't have to, maybe after a little while you have to stop and, but gradually it becomes easier and easier to observe without logging into what you're seeing. And if you succeed at doing this, you'll start to experience a sense of expansiveness in your being. You'll feel very happy that you're not so easily pulled into the noise of what you're seeing. You're learning to not take or experience life personally. The more personal you are with your experiencing, the more quickly you'll come into a kind of noise. If I ask you, try and see or understand what is actually perceiving all of this impersonally. You see? You may say, I'm confused, I don't know how to do this thing, you see? Huh? What is doing the seeing and not being involved in it? And don't give it to the mind. Just keep quiet and try to understand the question. And the question will begin to search you, to scan, to find if it can find the one who sees, the one who is observing. And don't underestimate the power of this simple exercise. This is what I've been pointing many people to do, like that. Okay? So earlier stage is that something is reacting to this kind of, and you think also, perhaps if you didn't come to satsang, you wouldn't notice the noise in your mind. But the minute you come and you begin to, as though something wants to go more deeply, it's as though you stir up some hornet's nest inside your being, and the mind is like some turbulence come. So I'm asking you, don't try and get rid of this turbulence, just learn to observe it like you're observing it, you are just observing someone else's behavior. Just try and do this, you can just watch the thoughts, watch the reactions and so on, but at the same time stay detached as much as possible. Then you may share with me what you discover, you see, and whether that discovery is worth it,